I mean, it's a haven, it's an oasis of sorts in, in the greater urban Sacramento area. And personally, I'm thankful every day that I arrive at school. I mean, it's a beautiful campus. In a sense, it's a kind of preserve for the natural area around it. It sits next to the American River Parkway, which in itself is a great preserve. But more than that, it's a spiritual and social preserve as well. The community that is centered here is one that has many aspects to it that you don't find in much of the space outside of this school. So anthroposophy, of course, is a big part of that. Waldorf education is a big part of that. But it's also a community of people who care about the school, about the education, about each other. And so in that sense, it's also a source of joy and regeneration for me when I arrive here, because not only is the physical splendor of the campus something that speaks to my heart, but there's an aura, there's a social, communal, tribal aura, if you will, that really affects me, and in a deep soul level. And there's a history here. We go back, and there are still people here who can remember the geodesic dome that was the first purpose-built structure on campus. People can remember when the lower school buildings were trucked onto the campus. They were portables. If you look at the sidewalk here, I love the little inscription that says, "This is where the budget ends," right? And that's as much sidewalk as they were able to put in that year. So much of this campus was built by the people who were invested in this campus, the teachers, the parents, the students. And as an alumni, you can walk around, I know, and point out and say, that was my third grade project, or that's the remnants of my third grade project maybe, and the oak stage and Meristem. And so there's little pieces, there's palpable pieces of the history of the Sacramento Waldorf School that are here and preserved. Some of it begins to fade, some of it begins to be transitioned, but what's left behind then is that intangible stuff, that stuff of the spirit and the soul that doesn't fade. And so the whole place is imbued with that. And then there's the kind of legends and the part legend, part history of the place itself. It used to be a kind of a ranch. It was a truck farm. They grew vegetables here. They raised cattle here. It's also the remnants of the gold mining era. All of the tailings, these gravel bars that we see all around us. And then we have the even older remnants from times before the gold rush and before the arrival of the Europeans, grandfather and grandmother oak. And all of this is part of the experience of all the students and the faculty that work here and go to school here. So there's a heritage that really speaks to me as a history teacher, but also just as a member of this community. And of course, I was a parent too, so I've got those memories and those experiences of my sons here at school being part of that aspect of the school's life as well. On many levels. I think the first thing that a Waldorf education, the most important thing that a Waldorf education provides in terms of real-world skills, is that the students who graduate or even just experience even part of the Waldorf education, they trust their own abilities. They develop their instincts for the truth. They develop capacities, both physical, the ability to do things with their hands, but also the ability to think on their own, the independence of thought. It's such an important, and it's a goal that we keep in mind in every aspect of the education. The ability to trust their feelings, you know, working in the arts, working in practical activities, working with subject matter that evokes emotional responses, and ask the students to go there and then to step back and try, and particularly in the high school, not so much in the lower school, but in the high school, to then understand and interpret and, in a sense, master those feelings. Not to suppress them, but to understand when you're coming from the feeling space and when you need to temper that with thought. And then from thought through feeling, the role that feeling plays in bringing thoughts to action. That the intent is formed, but it takes something from the heart, it takes something from that emotional space within you for you to turn that intent into real movement in the world. And for me, that's the real heart of the lesson. That's it. That's what lies at the core of what we're trying to do here. And then there's practical skills. I mean, everybody learns how to prune a tree. And, you know, believe it or not, I wish I'd had that lesson in high school, because I've butchered my trees at home for years. And, you know, if I'd had it as a sophomore, maybe I wouldn't have done such a bad job. You know, you learn by doing. And I think that some of the other practical skills, getting back to the practice of thinking clearly, that is a real applicable skill in whatever you do. If you can think clearly, if you can process, observe, put together the clues that the world is giving to you, whether it be the clues when you're sitting in a boardroom and trying to make important decisions about which way your business is going to go, or whether you're in a courtroom and you're trying to interpret and read the jury and convince them that your client's best interests are the ones that they should go with, or if you're out there building a house, and as someone who's in charge of the process, you have to make an important decision as to whether that modification is really going to work or not. All of that requires clear thinking. It requires clear perception of what you're being faced with. And I mean, that's the core real world skill that we want to provide. It's also good to be able to speak in public and listen and have good listening skills, to be able to express yourself in writing, to be able to organize an investigation, as we do in the sciences, right? There's a phenomenon and we want to try and figure out what is happening there. And so the sciences, the training in the sciences, whether you're going to go on and be a biochemist or not, still gives you that training of, here's a phenomenon. How do I sort out what created that? What makes it tick? How do I maybe even recreate it? So yeah, that's what we're doing.